Welcome to the NBAVE podcast. Welcome back to NBAVE, the NBA Avenue podcast, and this is on a day when all of our predictions seem to be coming true. They seem to be rounding out. Granted, the season's not over, but what predictions am I referring to? Well, namely, firstly, that the Warriors were going to hold on to the 10 seed, that the Rockets, who are surging, were not going to be successful in taking away that 10 seed from Golden State and knocking them out of the play-in. No, the Rockets are going to be the ones who are knocked out. They're going to be on the outside looking in. Golden State's going to hold on to that. That was our prediction, and that does seem to be rounding into shape, with the Warriors getting a victory last night over the Miami Heat. Now the Warriors are back up by a full game, and what's going to happen with Houston? Well, first of all, they have a tougher schedule the rest of the way, starting with tonight, where they're going to go against Oklahoma City. Granted, Oklahoma City's playing on a back-to-back, but they're super consistent, and they're in their home building. So Oklahoma City, in all likelihood, they're going to end the Rockets' win streak tonight. That is where win streaks go to die. You go to Boston, you go to Oklahoma City. These teams haven't lost very many home games the entire season. So, Houston, you've done a great job. You've surged. You've beat some good teams, mostly bad teams, though. And now you're going to face a very, very good team, specifically in the regular season, a really strong team, and you're probably going to lose the ballgame tonight. Right? The Thunder were able to beat the New Orleans Pelicans last night, and they're probably going to beat the Rockets tonight, and they're going to end that win streak, thus putting Golden State 1.5 games back, and then depending on what will happen with the Warriors against the Magic tonight, the Warriors could end up being 2 games ahead of the Rockets once again, or it could be 1 game ahead of the Rockets, could be a game and a half. We'll have to see what happens tonight, but I predict Rockets going to lose, and Warriors may get a victory. You know, they're playing the Magic. The Magic are very tough, but we'll look at that game a little bit later. But nonetheless, our prediction seems to be holding true. It seems to be rounding into shape. Then we had another prediction. We said that what was going to happen in the 6, 7, 8 seeds, we predicted that Dallas would rise above Phoenix and that they would rise above Sacramento. Now, Phoenix had a golden opportunity. They were facing off against San Antonio a couple of nights ago, and they failed to take advantage of it. What happened was they played with their food a little bit too much, and when the game came down to the final minutes, you had a situation where now you're trying to go win the game right there at the end. And more times than not, I think if you play out that scenario 10 times, or if you play it out 100 times, final minute against the San Antonio Spurs for a very experienced and star-studded Phoenix Suns team, probably 80% of the time, the Suns would win that matchup in the final minute, but not on that night. On that night, Jeremy Sohan took a 3 from the right wing, and he hit it. Not really his shot, not what you expect. Kevin Durant was certainly surprised by it, and that's how the cookie crumbles. So Phoenix fails to take advantage of their final easy game, and then they have the hardest schedule in the final 10 games of the season. So it's just going to be a gauntlet. It's going to be brutal. There are no easy games for them for the rest of the way, and Phoenix is most likely going to be settling into the play-in like we thought they would. Now you have the Sacramento Kings. They faced off against Dallas. Dallas was our pick to move up to the 6th seed. And that's exactly what happened, as Dallas just straight up embarrassed the Sacramento Kings last night. You have Luka Doncic, you have Kyrie Irving, the whole team rounding into form, and suddenly you start to hear a lot of the rumblings around the league of what we've been talking about for a while. We've said it since the trade deadline. Since the trade deadline, we said Dallas is a strong team. They are top 3 odds of coming out of the Western Conference. Not only that, but with the way that Phoenix has played, and with Phoenix moving themselves firmly into the play-in right now, Dallas is number 2. It's going to be Denver at the top, and it's going to be Dallas as the team to challenge them. And I know that other people have said this now since I said it, but hey, I was on it first. So some credit there to NBAVE. But yeah, we have Dallas. They punched Sacramento firmly in the mouth. Now, you can get all excited about triple-doubles and double-doubles with Domantas Sabonis, but unfortunately we have enough proof that unless he's playing against Anthony Davis, for some reason who he destroys, he comes up small in a lot of games where they really, really need him. And from Sacramento's perspective, they're probably going to be in the play-in because Sacramento is right behind Phoenix there. Not in terms of the standings, they're tied, but they're right with Phoenix in terms of their tough schedule. Phoenix has the toughest schedule. Sacramento has the top 2 or top 3 toughest schedule. I can pull that up as I'm talking, but both of these teams are going to have to go through very, very, very tough schedules where Dallas doesn't have to. Dallas has a much easier schedule for the remaining 10 games, right? Phoenix has the toughest. Sacramento has the third toughest. There's Charlotte in between the two of them, but that's neither here or there. It does not really make any difference at all. And then you have Dallas, and Dallas has a top 10 easiest schedule remaining. They actually have a top 8 easiest schedule remaining, top 8. So they're going to still be playing games against the Pistons, the Hornets, and the Hawks. And they'll get a couple of games against the Rockets as well. So Rockets probably gonna drop out. The Rockets they're already out, but they're gonna move further behind Golden State. Dallas is going to keep rising, and Phoenix and Sacramento are going to have a tough time staying where they are, but meaning they're going to have a tough time winning more of these games than they're losing, and that's going to round into Phoenix and Sacramento playing in the first play-in game. Los Angeles, the Lakers, are going to be playing against Golden State in the other play-in game, and then the winners and losers of those games will have to take it out against each other, but everything is really, really starting to round out exactly like we thought it would. Now, you take Phoenix, and you say, hey, Phoenix, if you're sitting there in a play-in tournament game, what's the thought? Like, where are they going to go from here? And the truth is, Phoenix can win the play-in game and then still give whoever they play a run for their money. That's just the way it is, because when Phoenix is fully committed, and they have the star power to do that. Whereas Sacramento, they've shown that along with the Miami Heat, these are the wild card teams. Sacramento and Miami are teams that from night to night, they either play extremely well or they're extremely mind-boggling and puzzling, and you can't figure out when they're going to win and when they're going to lose. It's been that way the whole season. Miami gets a blowout win one night, they get a tough win the next night, they get blown out the next night, and they get a tough loss the next night, and against all different types of opponents. You can never tell what they're going to do. They win games you think they'll lose. They lose games that you think they're definitely going to win. And it's the same thing for Sacramento. Completely inconsistent. You never know what they're going to bring. You never know what Sabonis is going to do in the close game. Fox is very good, but hey, when you're going to be coming up onto a playoff game, right, a real play, let's say Sacramento emerges from the play-in, and they are in it, and they're in the playoffs, and they're going to be playing a real series. They're an inconsistent team. That means they only play really well about half the time. They're 42-30. So they win less than 60% of their ball games. Okay, so let's say now you're going into the playoffs, and you're going to be playing only really tough teams. So you're probably only going to have about a 50% win percentage. But not only that, right, you need to win 4 out of the 7 games. But what's going to make it tougher is De'Aaron Fox might play well every single night. He might play well in all 7 games. Let's say the series goes 7. Fox might play well in every game. But the rest of the team might play poorly in at least half the games. And not only that, even when Fox plays very well, when you're playing against the top teams in the league, you still might lose. And that's the way it's been a lot of the time. Fox can't really do everything, and when Fox is not doing his best and he's being a little too passive and isn't dominating the ball enough, that's just more losses for them. That he's been doing a lot of that this season. Fox has all the talent. He's in my book, he's the talent of a top 10 player. I would call him a top 10 player. I really would. I think he's that good. I think he's that skilled. De'Aaron Fox is much better, in my opinion. I would much rather have him to start my franchise than Anthony Davis. And frankly, I would rather have him to start my franchise than Joel Embiid as well. Factor in who plays more. Factor in who's available in the playoffs. Factor in everything. Factor in who can make tough shots at the end of a ball game. I think I would take De'Aaron Fox over both of those guys hands down. But something's not working with this team. It needs to start at the top with Fox, and then it needs to trickle its way down to Sabonis. So you have a tough situation for Sacramento, and you have a tough situation for the Phoenix Suns. Well, it'll be interesting to see where things shake out. If the playoffs were today, and the Kings and Suns were both in it, and you had a 1-8 and a 2-7 matchup, you would see the Nuggets against the Suns right now, which would be brutal for Phoenix, and then you would see the Thunder against the Kings, which would be maybe not as brutal, for the Sacramento Kings. So you got to see what happens, where it shakes out between 7 and 8. But it does seem like Dallas is going to rise above, and rightfully so. Dallas has a better team than both Sacramento and Phoenix. Dallas rounded out the roster. The Kings didn't round out the roster, and their team isn't playing as well as they were last season. Last season, things were going on. They were firing on all cylinders. You had the right things happening at the right time. Everything seemed to click into gear, and they probably should have won that first round playoff series. But Golden State just banded together, and they took it, and Sabonis played poorly, and that was that. Draymond Green dominated him. And now, Sacramento has largely the same team, but it's a little bit different, and things are not clicking, and they had a much worse season than they did last year, so lots of reasons to worry. And the Suns have 3 stars, but they're not even guaranteed to be in the playoffs. They're going to have to win their way there. And Dallas, on the other hand, rounded things out. Where the Suns have a shallow bench, Dallas doesn't. Dallas has strength upon strength upon strength. Phoenix wishes that they had the sort of bench that Dallas does. Not only that, Phoenix would take the bench of the bench. They would take the 11th and 12th men off of this Dallas Mavericks team. Phoenix would gladly take Dwight Powell, who only played 4 minutes in that blowout win against Sacramento. Phoenix would take Jaden Hardy, who only played 4 minutes. Phoenix would take Maxi Kleber, who played 11 minutes. But the top 8 or 9 players on that team, we're not even talking about them. Phoenix would probably accept Markieff Morris, who played 3 minutes for Dallas. So Dallas just having the luxury of luxuries that they have a complete starting 5, a complete backup unit of 5, and then still extra players after that who other teams would still want. That just shows how well-rounded they are. And that shows how dangerous they are. What else you had happening last night was the Lakers had a great double overtime victory against the Milwaukee Bucks. And LeBron James wasn't suited up for this game, but Austin Reeves worked some magic late in the game, and they sent it to overtime, and then game ended up going to double overtime because you had a sequence where Damian Lillard tried to take a runner going left, got blocked by Anthony Davis. Giannis gets the ball off of the carom from the block from Anthony Davis. Ball pops up in the air. Giannis gets it sort of standing under the backboard, sends it out to the left corner, and Damian Lillard is able to hit the 3, puts them up. Lakers are able to use their savvy. They get to the foul line. They get the points back, and they tie it up to go into double overtime. So you're feeling a little bit at that point for Anthony Davis because Anthony Davis got the block on Lillard, which you would hope they would be able to propel that to win the game. But then at the end of the overtime, Anthony Davis got the same block on the same shot, but this time he was able to knock the ball in the air in a way where he was able to come up with the ball himself. So he not only did he block the shot, but it didn't go to Giannis. He blocked the shot and it went to himself. And then the Lakers were able to go on and take it to double overtime, where eventually they did win the game. And it was exactly what you'd expect in double overtime, where for the first 3 minutes, everyone was just so exhausted. Nobody had any legs, and nobody was scoring in those first 3 minutes. Maybe there was one bucket, and Damian Lillard had a nice play where he picked off a pass and scored, but Lakers came right back down, and then ultimately it was Austin Reeves in the clutch putting the game away. And people get a little bit exaggerated. They say Reeves is an all-star. No, Reeves is not an all-star. Yes, he put up very nice triple-double stats last night, but let's also bear in mind he played not just 4 quarters, he played an extra 5 minutes, and then he played another 5 minutes as one of the top shot creators and shot makers available in the game for the Lakers. And Dinwiddie had a couple of shots. He couldn't get it done. And Reeves basically became their number 1 option down the stretch. So, yes, by the end of that game, by the end of the first overtime, by the end of the second overtime, yes, Austin Reeves put up what would be all-star caliber numbers in a triple-double with 29 points. But no, he's not an all-star, but a very good player, a very clutch player, a player that every team in the league would love to have. We don't need to make it more than it is, but at the very least, he's a welcome sight on that Lakers team, and they need him very, very badly. just to see if they'll have even a chance of making it to a real playoff series coming up in the next few weeks. And that was pretty much it. The Thunder got a win, but I mean, how much in depth can we go into the Thunder? They win almost every ball game they play. And then we already discussed the Mavericks, we discussed the Warriors, and we have some interesting games coming up tonight. But let's just take a quick look. We talked about the Western Conference, but what about the Eastern Conference? Well, it's really rounding into shape as well. You have Boston, Milwaukee, and Cleveland. They've kind of been set. The Knicks are right there at 4, where they've been for a while. The Magic are there at 5. And the Pacers at 6, and because the Heat lost, the Pacers now have a game-and-a-half lead over the Heat. So the Pacers are settling into 6. The Heat are tied with the Sixers in that 7-8 where they've been for a while, and then the Bulls, and then the Hawks after that. So really everything's starting to round out. If everything ended the way it was today, that would make a lot of sense, and it very well can happen that way. It's very, very possible. So looking forward to the games that we have coming up tonight, you have a total snoozer with the Nets against the Wizards. Wizards have actually played better as of late, so we'll see. The Wizards might be able to get that victory, but who really cares? The Cavaliers have a gimme against Charlotte. The Warriors against the Magic, phenomenal game. Really, really good, because both teams really want that. Magic are right there. They would love to get into the top 4 and steal that top 4 seed from the Knicks. And the Warriors are trying to just survive. They made it this far. They unfortunately had bad stretches throughout the season. They had stretches where they were missing players due to injury. They were missing Andrew Wiggins due to whatever reasons Wiggins concocts in his head. And then they end up in a position that's not really envious. You don't want that position, but they're having to stave off the Rockets, who randomly just strung together 9 victories out of nowhere and catapulted themselves back into the playoff discussion. So the Warriors are desperate to win. The Magic play very consistent basketball, so they'll be right there with the Warriors, and it's going to be a hard-fought game down in Orlando, perhaps the game of the night. Then you have the Knicks, who are going to get the Raptors. You're not going to be seeing Emmanuel Quickley for Toronto. You're not going to be seeing RJ Barrett for Toronto. So, hey, Knicks play also. The Knicks and the Magic right there with each other. They play real consistent basketball, and specifically the Knicks. The Knicks, as of late, have been very, very, very good. Yeah, they lost one to the Nuggets, but hey, that's Denver. That's Denver. You got to judge it on a different scale. So Knicks should be able to handle the Raptors. The Clippers will face off against the Sixers. The Clippers are a floundering fish right now. The Sixers are not even that. They're even less. They're a 3/4 dead fish. And to the Clippers floundering. At least the Clippers are in it. The Sixers are kind of falling out of it. And I really just love to see the Sixers put some ball time into put the ball in the hands of Ricky Council and let him run a little bit. I was very impressed when I watched him in person when they played in Footprint Center in Phoenix. And I think he's the most talented guy on that roster. Everyone healthy included. Everyone healthy. I mean, even in terms of talent, that guy's got all the talent in the world. I'd love to see them put the ball in his hands. And what better time than when your team can't get any victories and you don't have a healthy Joel Embiid, and Maxey is desperate for some help. Absolutely desperate. Why not give it to Ricky Council and let him cook a little bit? So we'll see if that happens tonight. Clippers are trying to get their mojo back heading into the playoffs. But who knows what the heck to expect from that team. We've never known. They went on an amazing 30-game stretch at some point, maybe about 10 games after the trade, and that has kind of gone by the wayside. Who knows what to expect from them. Kawhi Leonard, is he in the building? Is he out of the building? Paul George, James Harden. Is James Harden at the club, or is he at the basketball court? Who really knows? We'll just have to wait around for the playoffs to see what the Clippers do. Who will the Clippers play? Maybe they'll have a good series against New Orleans in round 1. That is certainly an option. Then you have the Trailblazers going against the Hawks in a game that we can skip. You have the Pacers against the Bulls, another good opportunity for the Pacers, but the Bulls are that type of team that can get involved in close games, and they've played many overtime games, so that could certainly be on the horizon for them tonight. You have the Pistons going against the Timberwolves, so another easy Timberwolves matchup, and they usually take advantage of those. The Rockets are most likely going to lose their first game in 10 games. The Thunder are probably going to get the win, but hey, you know what? This is good because you love seeing a top team like the Thunder meeting a team like the Rockets while both teams are flying high. We don't want to see, if this game was the Rockets playing the way they were 20 games ago, then we wouldn't even think about it. We wouldn't even be interested in watching the Rockets against the Thunder tonight. But now that the Rockets have won 9 in a row, suddenly you've taken a game that would be a bad game, and it's a really good game. Very compelling, very exciting. So let's see if the Thunder can stop the red-hot Jalen Green and the Houston Rockets and sort of bring that rocket back down to earth for landing. We'll see what happens tonight. So the really, really good games that we've highlighted so far, Golden State against Orlando, and the Rockets against the Thunder. The Lakers will get an easy one against Memphis. In Memphis, they got to handle business there. The Spurs against the Jazz can be another skip. And then you have the Phoenix Suns in the gauntlet going against the Denver Nuggets. Ooh, boy, is this going to be tough for Phoenix. Phoenix failing to beat San Antonio in their last one. And as a punishment, they will now have to face off against Denver, the toughest team perhaps in the league, certainly in the Western Conference. Second only in the league to Boston. And they're the team that Boston is most scared of, and that's for sure. They're the team that Miami is most scared of, that's for sure. They're the team that everyone's most scared of. And they're the team to beat in the Western Conference, and frankly, they're the team to beat in the NBA, because while they don't have a better record than Boston, they seem to be able to play well against Boston. And they beat Boston in the... they beat Boston recently, but they are the NBA champions. So definitely the team to beat. Denver going against Phoenix tonight. That should be a good one. So we have 3 really good games to look forward to. Warriors, Magic, Rockets, Thunder, and the Suns against the Denver Nuggets are going to be the most important ones to see tonight. Pelicans took a little bit of a blow, losing Brandon Ingram with the knee, but it doesn't seem to be that bad. They'll be around. And something that we've said it about Minnesota, something that we've said about Cleveland on this season is that when you have a player leave who's playing a lot of minutes for your team and you have other talented players on the team as well, it gives them the opportunity. It lets you know what your roster is going to look like when that guy is not around. And for a team like New Orleans, that is something that's important to know. Because if you only know how you look with Brandon Ingram, well then how are you supposed to gather intel on how you look without him? You're a team that is a balanced team, but you don't have anyone that's kind of that next level superstar. You have Brandon Ingram, you have CJ McCollum, you have Zion Williamson. Then you have other players who round out the roster very nicely. You have Alvarado, a nice spark plug. You have Herb Jones, you have Trey Murphy, you have Larry Nance. Very solid team. Very steady team. But you're missing that one guy to take you over the top. And hey, if your team plays really well in the absence of Brandon Ingram from now until the end of the season, then maybe Brandon Ingram is the guy who you try to ship out to bring back in that next mega star to take your team to championship level. If your team plays very poorly without Brandon Ingram, then maybe you think one of the guys who's playing now, maybe the Zion Williamson, maybe CJ McCollum, maybe you send out those guys to try and bring in the superstar to bring championship to your doorstep. Something interesting to think about. We'll definitely be looking out for it tonight. As always, you can follow us on social at NBAVE. That's NBAVE, short for NBA Avenue. And you could reach out to the show by email, or you could tweet at us. But you can reach out by email at nbavenue@yahoo.com. We're your source for a great time every time. And until next time, we are out.